Hi guys. Alright, so this video is going to be helpful for the last 3 days of this packet, which would be days 24, 25, and 26. So for day 24, I'm having you derive the quadratic formula just to kind of see how it was made and to get a feel for how it would be used. And then in the following days, we're actually going to utilize the formula. So the quadratic formula is the fourth of the 5 ways that we're going to solve for a quadratic equation. So when you're doing the assignment for deriving the formula, just kind of read over those notes, and then the assignment is you're rewriting steps as well as you're going to cutting and pasting to make sure the problem that you have fits with deriving the formula. If that doesn't make sense, send me a message. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this video about that though. All right, now those notes are going to be helpful for today. Meaning days 25 and 26, where we're actually utilizing that formula. Sorry, the neighbor is weed eating and hopefully you can't hear it. Hold on. All right, so hopefully the sound is a little bit better now. As I was looking through your packet just now, I realized that the page for quadratic equation notes is for completing the square. I guess whenever I uploaded, I just copied the wrong page. So I will send you these notes via live grades, and you also have your textbook pages that would be beneficial. But this is what your notes will look like, and thankfully with this section, the quadratic formula isn't too hard to pick up what to do. So with the quadratic formula section, we are actually given a formula that we use with any quadratic equation that would help us figure out our 2 possible solutions. So the formula never changes. And I remember this back from high school because there's a song that goes with it. I'm unfortunately going to sing it because I am super tone deaf, so I apologize. All right, so this craziness is the quadratic formula. And again, there's a little tune that helps you remember it. That's why I remember it from 20, 30 years ago at this point. So not really 30 years, just joking, 20 years. So it's the x equals part is understood, and it goes minus b, plus or minus the square root, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a, all over 2a. If you would like a more musical tune, I suggest you find a different one on YouTube from a different channel. That's the best that mine will be. All right, so what this formula will be used with is when you have a quadratic equation you're trying to solve for and it's in standard form. So if it's not in standard form, you know how to put it there. Use inverse operation to get that quadratic equation where it needs to be. All right, so in your notes that, again, I'm going to give you, it will have this quadratic. And the first step, again, is to get your quadratic in standard form, which means that we want to make sure all of our quadratic is to the left. Then your step 2 is to identify your A, your B, and your C from this form. So we should know that our A goes with our term x squared, then B is with our term x, and then C goes with our constant. More specifically, it's the coefficient. So A would be 1, B would be -6, and C would be 5. All right, then step 3, we're going to plug in each one of these values for the variable in the formula. So I have x is equal to, this is already minus, but this is minus as well, which means I'd have 6 plus or minus the square root. I have b squared, so I actually have negative 6 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 5, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. All right, so we've substituted everything in. Now we are going to simplify both for plus and minus. So I'm going to simplify as much as possible, and then I'm going to solve for the answer that would be some information plus some other information minus some other information. All right, so this would be, I'm going to try to do a lot of it in my head since I don't have a whole lot of room. I have negative 6 squared, which is 36. And then I can do this multiplication first because of order of operations. So I have 4 times 1 times 5, which is 20. And then this, of course, is 2. All right, so I would end up getting x is equal to 6 plus or minus 36 minus 20, which is the square root of 16 all over 2. All right, I'm going to keep simplifying with the little room that I have because I know that this is 4. All right, so I have x is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 4 over 2. All right, now let me give myself a little bit more room. Oh, I don't need that. I took the square root of 16. Oops. All right, so at this point, this is as simplified as it can be without using the plus or minus sign, but I actually am going to use that. So I'm going to solve when I have 6 plus 4 divided by 2, and then I'll solve for 6 minus 4 divided by 2. So this would be 10 divided by 2 is 5. This would be 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I have that x is equal to 5 or 1. If I wanted to check that solution, of course, I could throw that back into the original quadratic equation. All right, so again, not too bad. I have a formula. I use the formula exactly how it says, and then I'll get that answer. All right, so I'm back. I'm giving you one more example, so it'll be a little bit more fluid than what the last one was. All right, so I still have my quadratic equation. It's in your notes, but you know your little tune to remember it. And I'm going to follow those steps. So my first step is to solve this quadratic using this formula. I need to make sure that my quadratic is in standard form, and we can all see that it is, so it's good to go. My second step is I want to identify A, B, and C from that form. So 2 would be A, negative 5 would be B, and 3 would be C. All right, so far so good. So again, 2, negative 5, and 3. Now I'm going to take those pieces and plug them into the quadratic equation. All right, so let me separate my board a little bit. And I'll have x equal to negative 5 would actually be positive 5. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. All right, that leads me to my step 4, which is to simplify for both the plus and the minus answers. All right, so again, I'm going to do some of this work just over top because of the lack of room I have. I have -5 squared, which is 25. I have 4 times 2 times 3, so that's 8 times 3, which is 24, and then 2 times 2, which is 4. All right, and then I'm going to keep simplifying, so I have 5 plus or minus 25 minus 24 is 1, so that's the square root of 1, all over 4. And then I have to solve that both ways. Now, let me just take one break. If this happened to be negative, just understand that for now, we're going to call that no solution. Once you guys get to a further class, you'll know a little bit more about what to call that. All right, so now I'm going to split this up into its two possibilities. We can also say we know the square root of 1 is 1, so we can take that guy off. So I'm going to have 5 plus 1 divided by 4, and I'm going to have 5 minus 1 divided by 4. This would be 6 over 4, which reduces to 3 over 2. And then this would be 4 over 4, which reduces to 1, which means that my answers would be 3 over 2 and 1. And then, of course, I always am going to suggest that you take those answers and plug them back into your quadratic, especially if you don't have something that's self-checking. You need to be in the habit of checking because you never know if you'll have something that's self-checking or not. All right. Just check my textbook real quick. So the next thing that you have in your packet is just this practice assignment. If you do this, remember, you don't have to turn it in. It's just something for you to practice. And it has a quadratic for you to solve using the quadratic formula. I would just pick a few, and then as you do that, check to see if the work that you have matches the work and the answers that are given in the cut and paste pieces. Don't just do a little bit and then get to your assignment and not really know where to start because you only did a little bit of it versus the whole problem. All right, and then your assignment, you can do this with a partner, but you can do it by yourself too. It's called a partner activity because you have one clock and this paper says like clock 1 and clock 2. If you want to do it by yourself, just pick one or the other. It doesn't matter. And it's a scavenger hunt in the same assignment. So if you do it by yourself, it's still self-checking. So you're going to start at this clock, and then as you do that problem, you'll see the answer at the top of one of these other blocks. But if you do it with a partner, your partner's start answer and your start answer should be exactly the same. All right, and then you take those answers and you glue them around the clock per the order. So 12 o'clock's your start, and then so on and so forth. So, all right, I think that's it. I will make sure to get you those notes. I apologize about that error. And this concludes your day 26 in your current packet, and we'll finish this up in our next packet. Hopefully we don't have that, but we'll see. So I miss you guys, and I hope to see you soon. Please let me know if you have any questions. I am happy to help.